The mystery of the book explaining what happens after death. What state exists after death? Does the human self dissolve or transform into a new form, traveling through gateways yet to be known? Is the question of life after death truly valid? Today, let us explore one of the most profound and enigmatic texts of Tibetan Buddhism, which has attracted significant attention since its discovery, the Bardo Thodol, also widely known as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Imagine a guide accompanying you through the most profound and mysterious moments of existence. This is the role of the Bardo Thodol, and no, it is not simply a manual about the end of life. It is a map, a spiritual guide to what happens immediately after physical death. Prepare yourself, for we are about to pass through this gate together, exploring its messages and perhaps gaining a deeper understanding of the meaning of existence. Bardo Thodol was created by Padmasambhava, a legendary and almost mystical figure in Tibetan Buddhism. Born in India, he is widely recognized for bringing Buddhism to Tibet in the 8th century. The Tibetan tradition honors him with the title Guru Rinpoche, meaning precious master, but Padmasambhava was not just a monk. He was a profound spiritual master, a yogi skilled in mystical techniques and esoteric teachings. Bardo Thodol emerged from his desire to guide not only the living but also the deceased, offering them a path to liberation even after the final breath. From a young age, Padmasambhava displayed extraordinary mystical abilities and was recognized as a Mahasiddha, a figure who had attained an extremely high level of spiritual awareness and developed supernatural powers, or siddhis, regarded as miraculous. He was invited to Tibet by King Trisong Detsen, who sought to expand Buddhism and strengthen the country's spiritual unity by unifying the people under a single belief system. At that time, Tibet was deeply rooted in shamanic practices and animist beliefs, with the Bond religion serving as the indigenous spiritual tradition. This diverse and even chaotic spiritual environment posed significant challenges to the spread of Buddhism. Upon arriving in Tibet, Padmasambhava encountered resistance from various cultural and spiritual forces. The local deities and spirits of the Bond tradition opposed Buddhism, and Padmasambhava used his knowledge of magic and tantric rituals to tame these spirits. The integration of Bond deities and practices into Tibetan Buddhism was essential for establishing a lasting spiritual foundation. To solidify this, Padmasambhava founded Tibet's first Buddhist monastery, Sami Monastery, and began transmitting profound teachings about the nature of the mind, reality, and the cycle of existence, known as samsara. In Tibetan Buddhism, there is an interpretation that death is not the end, but rather a state of transition, a moment that opens up the possibility for spiritual liberation. Padmasambhava understood this. At the time of death, the mind enters a special state, no longer distracted by the physical body. It becomes more attuned to the ultimate truth. He realized that this is a unique opportunity for liberation, but he also knew that most people, when they die, become lost in illusions and fears that prevent them from grasping this potential. His mission was to create a guide that could be read by companions of the dying or even studied during life, in order to prepare the mind for the bardos, the transitional states after death. Essentially, he sought to alleviate suffering and open doors to enlightenment, even when everything seems uncertain and disintegrating. This compassion forms the foundation of the Bardo Thodol. He also knew that many people might not achieve enlightenment in life, but he saw death as a final opportunity, and thus he provided guidance for practitioners and disciples to recognize the clear light, the pure manifestation of the mind, at the moment of their passing. What are the 3 stages of the Bardo Thodol? The Bardo Thodol guides us through 3 main states, or bardos, that every soul traverses. The Chikai Bardo. In the moment of death, during the Chikai Bardo, the soul experiences the moment of death itself, a transitional point where the physical body disintegrates and consciousness is freed from its material limitations. When the dissolution is complete, the soul finds itself before the primordial clear light, described in the Bardo Thodol as a brilliant, pure, and vast light. The clear light is the manifestation of the absolute nature of the mind, a state of pure, unconditional consciousness, where there is no division, fear, or attachment. Some recognize it as the higher self, others call it the sun mind. There are many names for this all-encompassing and infinite state of peace. For the spiritual practitioner, the Chikai Bardo offers the potential for ultimate liberation. If the soul can recognize the clear light as part of its own nature, it will immediately attain liberation, nirvana, and will not need to go through the subsequent stages of the Bardo. This recognition is independent of rituals or teachings. It is a direct, unmediated experience of the truth, where the mind sees itself without filters or distortion. In this moment, all conditions, karma, and identity dissolve. On the other hand, for those who are unprepared, the intensity of the clear light may become frightening. The mind, instead of recognizing the light as its true nature, may interpret it as a threat due to fear or attachment to the familiar. In this case, the soul retreats, missing the opportunity for liberation, and enters the subsequent stages of the Bardo, where it must confront increasingly distorted and limiting images based on its karmic tendencies. The Chonyid Bardo, the Bardo of visions. As Carl Gustav Jung once said, gods and demons are projections of the unconscious, powerful and unavoidable until they are understood as parts of ourselves. In the Chonyid Bardo, the soul finds itself in a state of consciousness detached from the physical body, in a dimension where the boundaries of the material world no longer exist. Here, the soul experiences projections of its own mind, projections that can appear both in the form of angels and unsettling, frightening images. This Bardo reveals the nature of the mind, where everything that has been repressed, desired, or feared comes forth, often amplified. The visions in the Chonyid Bardo directly reflect the emotional states and karmic forces the soul has accumulated through countless lifetimes. These visions manifest in two distinct forms: peaceful visions and wrathful visions. In the stage of peaceful visions, the soul is initially greeted by images of peaceful deities, representing the enlightened and compassionate aspects of consciousness. These figures may appear as bodhisattvas or deities of light, radiating positive qualities that the soul has cultivated. The peaceful visions bring a sense of tranquility and calm. However, for an unprepared mind, these visions can be overwhelming or difficult to understand, causing the soul to retreat and doubt the authenticity of the experience. In the stage of wrathful visions, if the soul fails to recognize the essential peaceful nature of the initial visions, it will gradually confront more intense projections, known as the wrathful deities. These figures are expressions of anger, fear, and repressed desires, taking on grotesque and unsettling forms. It is important to understand that these wrathful deities are not external or malevolent entities, but rather manifestations of the mind itself, reflecting the passions and attachments that still bind the soul to the cycle of suffering. The Chonyid Bardo is described as a state where the mind is freed from physical limitations. It is a pure state of spiritual manifestation where everything is amplified. The visions that arise are like dreams, but unlike ordinary dreams, they possess an astonishing clarity and vividness. This occurs because the mind, now freed from the body, experiences its inner energies without filter, and everything that has been repressed and accumulated emerges with almost tangible intensity. These visions are considered opportunities for learning and enlightenment, as each vision represents an aspect of the ego that must be integrated or transcended. Those who maintain full awareness in this Bardo can recognize that all visions, whether peaceful or wrathful, are simply creations of the mind. Recognizing this truth allows the soul to dissolve its fear and achieve liberation. At this stage, Bardo Thodol advises the soul to focus on the clear light, the primordial nature of the mind, described as a vast and pure radiance. Recognizing the clear light is the key to total liberation, as it represents the inherent nature of all beings. It is the sun amidst the clouds of visions, a light that remains unchanged despite all mental projections. If the soul can see beyond the visions, it can achieve enlightenment and thus transcend the cycle of rebirth. However, recognizing the clear light is not easy for the ordinary mind. For most beings, the visions are so real and filled with personal significance that it is difficult to see beyond them. For this reason, Bardo Thodol suggests that spiritual practitioners train during their lives to detach from illusions and contemplate the nature of the mind. Through such practice, even when facing the intense visions of the Chonyid Bardo, they can maintain focus on the clear light and find peace. Fear and attachment are the greatest obstacles to liberation. The intensity of the visions can evoke profound fear, especially the wrathful deities that represent the untamed aspects of consciousness. This fear creates a sense of separation, preventing the soul from recognizing the visions as parts of itself. The soul may try to escape these visions or, due to attachment, cling to certain visions, particularly the peaceful ones, which keeps it bound to the cycle of samsara. To overcome this cycle, the soul must realize the inherent emptiness of the visions themselves. In Tibetan Buddhism, this concept is known as sunyata or emptiness. A mind that remembers emptiness in the Chonyid Bardo can observe all visions but remains unbound, understanding that they are merely temporary manifestations of its own nature. Thus, the experience of Chonyid Bardo is not punishment or meaningless suffering, but a stage of revelation where the soul faces the mirror of its own mind. It is a test that distinguishes those who are ready for liberation from those who still need to be reborn in order to deepen their learning. The Sidpa Bardo. In the Sidpa Bardo, the final stage, the soul faces a pivotal moment, the choice of its next body. This decision is determined by the accumulated energy of all actions, thoughts, and intentions, what we call karma. It's as if the entire preceding journey has led to this point, where what we carry within will determine our next destination. Upon entering this bardo, the soul has undergone the dissolution process in the Chikai Bardo and confronted its own projections and illusions in the Chonyid Bardo. Now, it finds itself in a state of heightened spiritual density, where the desire for rebirth intensifies, driven by fears and attachments that have not yet been transcended. This desire, as Tibetan Buddhism teaches, is what compels the soul to seek a new body, a new form of existence. In the Sidpa Bardo, consciousness, influenced by karmic tendencies, operates like subtle imprints left by actions from previous lives. These imprints function as magnetic forces, pulling the soul towards circumstances and experiences that reflect its inner state. For example, if the soul carries a significant amount of fear, that fear may guide it to a rebirth where it will encounter similar emotions. Likewise, intense desires and uncontrolled emotions create a vortex of energy, shaping the kind of life the soul will experience in the next cycle. During the Sidpa Bardo, the soul undergoes a series of visions related to the process of rebirth. These visions often include images of couples in union, a metaphor for the creation of new life. Here, the soul is called to select a new body, unconsciously guided by emotional tendencies and karmic impulses. In many descriptions, the Bardo Thodol suggests that upon seeing these images, the soul should maintain a state of detachment and clarity. Only then can it avoid being blindly pushed into an unwanted rebirth. For those who can remain calm and detached, the Sidpa Bardo offers a final opportunity to transcend. There is still the possibility of not reincarnating or choosing the path of liberation. This is the goal of spiritual practitioners, to avoid reincarnation driven by illusions and attachments. They must recognize these visions as manifestations of their own mind, temporary and empty in nature. Throughout the experiences of Sidpa Bardo, consciousness feels a strong attraction toward a new body, a process which the Bardo Thodol compares to a spiritual storm. It seems that the urge to continue existing, to be born once more, becomes irresistible. The choice of a new body is not a conscious decision. It occurs through a profound call of instinct, where the characteristics of the new rebirth are shaped by the mind state. It is as if the new body reflects what the soul needs to experience or resolve. This process of selection also reflects the Buddhist belief that each rebirth is an opportunity for spiritual growth. The body the soul will choose is best suited to its karmic and spiritual development. However, many do not grasp this opportunity and end up reborn under adverse conditions, where suffering sustains itself. Those who can see beyond this illusion may, however, reach a state where, instead of reincarnating, they can merge into the clear light, the ultimate essence of mind. According to the Bardo Thodol, preparation for this final stage begins in life by contemplating the nature of our desires and fears while we are still alive. We become more aware of the impulses that shape our destiny. Spiritual practices like meditation and reflecting on death strengthen the ability to remain unattached, helping the mind to remain unbound by the dramas that arise in Sidpa Bardo. Thus, Sidpa Bardo reveals a simple yet profound truth. Life and death are interconnected, and the cycle of rebirth is nothing more than a continuous manifestation of our own choices and perceptions. By releasing ourselves from attachment, we free ourselves from the cycle of rebirth and reach enlightenment, a state where there is no further rebirth, as there is no longer any illusion of a fixed identity. The Bardo Thodol is not merely a religious text or a collection of mystical beliefs. It is a tool for self-awareness, a mirror for our mind, and a map of our destiny. If these discoveries spark reflections on life for you, please share the video and subscribe to the channel. What are you most curious about regarding life after death? Do you believe in life or a form of existence after death? Leave a comment to let us know. Thank you for watching.